National Geographic returns, it'll be Nick Miller in his tiny house.
All right, so this area is pretty much going to be the kitchen. So this sort of L shape will be the countertop. Above there'll be a small loft, so it's pretty much going from here to the other end and back. That'll be enough space for like a twin-size bed and some storage. So that's for guests and things. The nice thing about that layout is when you're standing at the countertop, you don't feel like you have something right above your head. Which I don't like when I'm cooking, but that's just a preference.
So how tall will the loft be?
So it'll be pretty much from here back.
But above your head? Above your head and...
7 feet. So there'll be 7 feet of standing height above, underneath it. And then there'll be a ladder to get up to that. And then, so pretty much starting about right here, there'll be a staircase that goes up to the primary loft. The primary loft goes pretty much from like here and back. So that'll be about 50 square feet of space. And that's enough space for king-size bed storage. That's the primary loft. That's where I'll be sleeping. Underneath the staircase, there'll be a combo washer-dryer, storage, all that stuff. Underneath the loft, pretty much from, say, here backwards, is the bathroom. That'll have a composting toilet, as well as it's going to be a wet room, so the shower is just going to be in the space.
Yeah.
The bottom of it's just going to be a drainage basin.
Yep.
So anywhere the water gets, it'll just drain to a certain
Very
point.
sensible.
I have a desk right here, window above the desk. Can do all of my work. Opposite from that, there'll be a closet. Couch underneath these windows. That's pretty much the general layout. The one feature that I really like is, so you may notice on this side there's
Lots of windows.
tons of windows, not so much on this side. This is intended to be a north-south orientation.
Yep.
So if my calculations are correct, during the winter, all of my heating should be taken care of by the sun.
Wow.
So I shouldn't have to use any kind of mechanical heating. Though I will have a 12 kilobtu heat pump just in case, and also for cooling in the summer. Now
This is an air cooled.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it'll all be electrical. No propane, no wood stove. And then in the summer, the roof overhang is at an angle so that the sun doesn't come blazing right in the windows, and it should keep it cool enough that I shouldn't really need to run the AC too terribly much.
Yep.
But the AC also doesn't use that much energy because it's going to be so well insulated and it's such a small space.
Right.
So, yeah.
I found when I was in the Los Angeles Eco Village, if I devoted 400 watt-hour solar panels, so 100 watt-hour solar panels, to 2 deep cycle Trojan L16 marine batteries, deep cycle batteries, that was enough to run off of a 2,500 watt inverter, an air conditioner that was one window air conditioner for about 2 hours a day during the summer, because I insulated the place. That's all I needed was 2 hours to cool things down.
Yeah, just during the hottest part of the day.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, insulation is really worth every inch. Like I have 2x6s for the walls, and then on the outside, I'm also going to have exterior. Yeah. This is an example of the rock wool. These are just some scraps from, we just redid the back room inside. But yeah, so this mineral wool stuff is great. It doesn't rot, it doesn't absorb moisture, it doesn't retain moisture, and it's also hydrophobic.
Is it really? Because we use rock wool in our tower gardens because it absorbs moisture and keeps the plant roots. So this must be a different rock wool.
If you soak it in the water, it'll kind of act like a sponge. But if you spray water at it, it comes up and rolls off.
Okay. Good to know.
So that's nice. And then
it looks like you've got the rigid foam here.
Yes. So
I double layer.
I wasn't able to avoid using petrochemicals in absolutely everything,
right,
as much as I might want to, but Yeah, so in all of my headers, I've used extruded polystyrene, mostly because it doesn't compress when you're building the headers. There wasn't really a way I could think of to avoid that. I briefly played around with trying to use plywood to achieve that, but it just ended up being too much of a hassle. And I think that using petrol as insulation is probably the noblest use of it.
That's a good way of putting it.
But yeah, so
and that's because you don't want any heat lost in the joints and the headers, right?
Yeah, that's the hope. Because for people with like solid wood headers, there tends to be a lot of thermal bridging that goes on.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to avoid that as much as possible.
What kind of windows will you use?
So I'm using just double pane Anderson 100 series Fibrex. They're going to be black on the outside because I like the look. And so nothing too fancy. I played around with using triple pane, but it's just for the small amount of energy I'm using for this place, it doesn't really make
justify the
sense.
cost. Are the double pane argon filled, or are they just air filled?
I think they're just air filled, but they should do the trick.
And what is it you're working on this top part right now? What is it's going to go all the way around? It's like an extra.
So the top part is going to be the single pitch roof. So that pitch is going to go from the top of that bumped up section there all the way to the roof
down
line,
this way.
Down that way, correct. So that'll shed water. I don't have any skylights. So I tried to keep the roof assembly as simple as possible because it really helps with maintenance. And I'm not a professional builder, so I didn't want to go too wild with things. Just because the roof, any kind of roof penetration you have will reduce the lifespan of the roof by quite a bit.
Your pitch, will it be such that you can get a good angle for photovoltaics? Is that what you're going to put on top of the roof since you're south facing?
Considered using solar panels on top. More likely what I'll do is have a standalone system that's
on a
separate
pole
from
mount?
the house. Right, on a pole mount or something like that. The solar panels are probably going to double the cost of the build. So I'm kind of treating it like a separate project where I'm making design decisions so that I can upgrade later if that's something that I want to do. The electrical will be able to plug into either just street power or a solar panel. So the idea is to make it as modular as possible. I'm doing something similar with the water system so that it can plug into either well water, street water, whatever other source. It could plug into a garden hose if I wanted to. So just make it as modular as possible.
Any gutters for rainwater catching?
That would be the eventual goal. I'll probably attach those later, just because I don't know at what point I'm going to roll this thing down the road, and I don't want to, put all that stuff on and then be like, all right, well now I got to take it off and do that. So that'll be something that probably comes in later. But
so this is going to be mobile. You're going to move it from time to time, or is this a one-time move?
From time to time. Okay. It's 10 feet wide, which means I need overwide permits to move it, and I really don't expect to ever move this thing myself. It's not supposed to be a weekend camper. It's supposed to be a house that can move.
Right.
So like when I do all these, eco features and put a lot of time and effort into designing all this stuff, I don't then have to feel like, oh, and then I'm just going to sell it and it'll be someone else's. If I have to move, I can move with it. And the cost will be pretty comparable to what the cost of moving would be if I was in a traditional house anyway.
Oh, right, because you're going to have to box everything up and put it in the van and all that. Just get your permit and drag everything where you go.
And plus, it also helps with insurance, because if I'm not moving it myself, I don't have to get a trip endorsement. So I can insure it as if it's a stationary house. And then the house moving company that I'll likely have do the actual move is insured for the full replacement cost of whatever it is that they're hauling. That way my premiums will be much, much lower. And then plus I'm not a trucker. This thing is huge. It's rated for 21,000 pounds.
Wow.
I hope to not get anywhere close to that, but I've calculated it'll still clock in around 17,000. So
for a move,
it's a big object.
17,000 for pounds.
Yeah, 17,000 pounds.
What do you have under here? Is this just ply?
So
on
right
a-
now, this is just the
you
steel
show me the-
joists of the trailer.
All right, let's see the trailer's wheel casings there.
So this trailer has 3 drop axles. That's to get a little bit of extra head height. I decided not to do a deck over because I don't like to feel cramped or stooped.
What's a deck over?
So trailers, you can have so right now we're standing on the deck of the trailer.
Oh.
You can have the deck so that it's just totally above the wheelbase, which honestly probably would have been
Oh,
simpler.
so it'll be over there.
Yeah, so I
To
have,
this height here.
yeah, so this is the wheel well.
Right.
All the wheels, 3 wheels are behind that, 3 wheels are behind that. Basically, I'm treating them like they're 2 windows. So they have these massive 2x12 tripled up headers to distribute the weight of the house around the wheel
Oh,
wells.
that's what these are.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
So basically, the fenders aren't supposed to be taking any weight. I've seen some people do that, but inevitably they end up sagging after a couple of years.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so if you treat it like it's just a big old window, you know, that's engineering-wise, that's I'd say the safest bet.
That's smart.
Getting a deck over trailer, I wouldn't have had to have messed with any of that, so it would have simplified the build a little bit. But I would have, missed out on the extra height.
Yeah, it was an extra 2 feet or so.
Yeah. So it's not for nothing. And then underneath this, there are steel joists that were attached to the trailer as built. Those are 16 inches on center. Right now, you can tell there's a little bounce to it. That's because we're on the suspension. Usually, I have it up on pilings, but I'm actually going to have to drag this forward about 10 feet pretty soon because you see there's a power line up above us.
Oh, yeah.
And we're getting pretty close.
Yep.
If this was still up on the pilings like I had it, it would already be touching. Initially, that power line was much lower. You can see that dark spot on the house over there. It used to come in. It would have already been touching. So we had it moved, and I naively assumed that would be high enough. But so I'll have to drag it forward 8 feet. I'll get a truck, and that I'm comfortable doing myself.
What size truck do you need to move something like this forward?
So I also have a ton weight scale that should be coming in on Monday. That'll give me a better idea of how heavy it is. I figure based on the math, just treating it like a beam supported at 2 points in the middle and at the tongue, it can't possibly be more than 700 pounds based on the total weight rating of the trailer. If it's more than 700 pounds, then we have a problem, and I need to really rethink my life. So if I was going down the road at full speed for miles and miles and miles, I'd want something with dual rear suspension. I'd want like a Ford 350, like something pretty beefy. One possibility, I could just rent a U-Haul and just roll it forward. I don't think it would crush the rear suspension, but I wouldn't want to, take that on the highway. So you do need a pretty big truck to move it. A tow truck is another possibility. So we'll see.
That's something. What is it going to be cladded on inside here? You're going to cover this up, obviously, and put that insulation in.
So for the finish work, so I'm going to have a wiring chase, which is just this little air gap, essentially, that you create by having just horizontal furring strips of wood. And that leaves space so that normally people put their plumbing and electrical inside the wall cavity, and that takes up insulation space. So, and you risk having your pipes freeze. Because right now...
What the problem is, you'd have bridging if you had the pipes in there?
Yeah, there could be a bit of thermal bridging. Just having the pipes closer to the outside of the house, they're going to be colder on average. Especially in a house that has all 4 walls exposed to the outside. It's handy to have your plumbing be as close to the sort of the thermal core as possible. If I leave for a few days, I don't want the pipes to immediately freeze. So having them go through a wiring chase means I can just have full continuous cavity insulation without worrying about the plumbing as much.
What'll happen right here and here and here?
So the furring strips create an air gap that comes out.
Right.
So the plumbing just passes straight in front.
So there won't be any contact.
There won't be any contact. I don't have to drill through the studs. And the electrical will do something similar. So I don't have to worry as much about oh, how am I going to snake things through? Still for it can't go in front of the windows, obviously. So there still has to be, some path to get around that. Likely, I won't have any plumbing or electrical in the south wall, just because there's no space for it. So pretty much my plumbing, electrical manifold.
It's on your coldest wall.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Although this will be a warmer wall. If you were able to get something, if the bathroom is here and you were able to get something in here, this is probably going to get pretty warm.
Potentially. I mean, it's such a small space. I'd hazard to guess that most of it is going to be the same temperature. Also on the outside, I'm doing 2 inches of continuous insulation, so that should keep the plywood sheathing warmer on average.
Oh, you will extra insulate in here and on the outside here.
Yeah, so if you get sort of like a cutout idea here, I'm going to have 2 inches of rock wool board on the outside that comes out even further. And then on the inside, the wiring chase, which will have more insulation. So overall, it's going to be like a 10.5-inch wall assembly. So I think it ends up being like R32, something like that. So pretty high R value.
That's pretty good.
So yeah, and that was by design, because the better the insulation is, the less solar power I need to throw at trying to heat the place. So it's definitely going to pay off.
So have you looked at solar vacuum tube for hot water heating? They're really efficient.
For just sort of just mounting it and having it heat the water directly.
Yeah.
I have looked at that. So that's certainly a possibility, mostly because I'm trying to, I view, because it's going to end up being quite expensive. All of the solar stuff is going to probably double the cost of the house. So
what's the cost of the house?
I estimate it's probably going to clock in at around $25,000 all told.
Because we just purchased a 60 vacuum tube solar hot water system for the big digester at Fat Beat Farm that we built, and it cost us $2,500, including the control box, and that's
even with the
overboiling. The power
does it need to have an inverter or anything?
Oh well, I mean, the pump uses. What does the pump use? It can't use more than 100 watts. I mean, it's just a circ pump. So it's just the tubes are in a manifold up on the roof, and then it just goes down to the control box, which just has this pump, and it just circulates the water, fills a 500-liter storage tank with a heat exchanger inside. But that's what we're able to get it for in Florida.
I'll have to take another look.
Because it boils water. I mean,
wow.
If you ever seen vacuum tubes are double insulated, and they are very efficient even on the coldest winter day. Yeah, I mean, the ones we have in Germany, we have a 50 tube system, gets the water up to 110 Celsius on a sunny day.
Wow.
So it's the best way, I think, of heating water.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to take another look at that, because sort of the idea, I was sort of, my philosophy was, okay, well, I'll leave space for any number of future possibilities, and then just like deal with that later, because I need to.
As long as you have the right pitch,
right? And then you can also, you can put mounting brackets on to change the angle.
Right, that's what we have, because we have a flat roof, so you change the angle with the mounting brackets.
Because and also saying earlier that you have a shower loop.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking of using one of those as well. Because my initial conception is that I'm going to use a 10-gallon hot water heater, which that's not much.
That's not much.
You're not going to get a long, luxurious shower in that.
Why not do an on-demand heater?
So I'm trying to avoid using propane, and I ideally want to do everything to be electrical, so that I can do the plug into a solar system or a grid or all that. So doing an on-demand electrical heater would end up using kilowatts of electricity all at once. So it ends up using a lot less power to heat it slowly over 8 hours to fill the tank. And then the shower loop will ostensibly allow me to take a much longer shower, because the one that I've been looking at, which was designed by honestly, the road noise is really why I'm building a tiny house, so I can get away from it. So The one that I'm looking at is designed by a Swedish engineering student. There isn't like a kit available. You just kind of build it. It has a filter stack as well as a heater inside
So
of it.
does it have the coils going around the drain pipe?
No, actually. Though I think you could probably include that. The idea is that it takes whatever volume of water you're using, in this case 10 gallons,
Right.
and then it just recirculates that.
Yeah.
It filters out any kind of grit or oil
Right.
that's coming off of you. And then you can also put in UV filters so that it'll kill any bacteria.
Which is completely unnecessary.
Probably unnecessary.
I mean, the system I designed basically just pumped the water as it went down into a bucket back up over your head until it was like taking a bath. Imagine you're sitting in a bath and you're sitting there for 10, 15, 20 minutes. So you're in the same water. So in mine, you rinse off first with fresh water that you let down the drain, and then you close the stopper, and then you turn on the pump, and then the rest of the water just circulates and circulates for 10, 15 minutes like you took a bath. And if you feel, because there is a filter, but if you feel like you're not clean still at the end, then you just rinse off. But the luxurious part. Huh? I was just using a trap. It's just to trap any grit or hair or dust and stuff.
And does it? How quickly does it get cold?
Assuming the bathroom is well insulated, you start out at about 39, 40 Celsius, which is just above body temperature. So you have a nice hot shower, and it cools down to about 30, 28 within 12 to 15 minutes, which really tells you, oh, it's time to get out now.
Right.
Otherwise, what I do is infuse it with another pulse of hot water to keep taking my shower longer.
Gotcha.
Would that be different here? Because as in Florida,
And he's well insulated. It shouldn't matter at all.
Hopefully, yeah. I mean,
But you need to build your if you're not going to do what we did, is we put one of these in the shower that we stood in. It fit the shower, so we were standing in it. So the water, and then we put the siphon, the pump, the what's it called? Anyway, it's just a hose mount that goes on that makes it flat, so your hose isn't sitting there. It's
okay.
But you get it for sumps. You get it to scrape water out with a sump. So we put that right on the bottom of it and filled it up to about ankle height with hot water, and then it's pumping around and around and around and around and around, and then we just opened a drain at the bottom and we're done. But it worked really well. But if you build it in so that your shower is elevated, then you don't have to step into a bucket.
Right.
And
Yeah. I mean, so
What were you thinking? How are you going to do it?
the floor is going to come up from this I think it's like 2 inches, and then some fraction. But so I could. My initial conception was to have like pond liner, some kind of completely impermeable to kind of make a basin, and then on top of that have when you're in an outdoor shower and you're standing on a teak, like teak slats as like a sleeper above that, so it looks nice.
Exactly so. You only need about 4 inches.
Right.
Because you're pulling the water as it's coming down. As long as it covers that snorkel or that, I have to show you a picture of it. They sell them at any place where you buy sump pumps. So you're really talking about 3 inches is all you need to be immersed in, so that it's sucking water rather than air.
Yeah, that's something to consider.
Yeah.
And that would solve some issues about thinking where I'm going to put the drain, because I can just cut a hole and have that go into the trailer frame. The problem there is that the trailer frame is only about 6 inches, which is not much insulation in comparison with the rest of the house. So, I'm trying to be as judicious as possible about putting openings in the floor, just to minimize heat loss there. Likely, what I'll eventually do is have an insulated skirt that goes around the foundation to beef that up a bit. But we'll see how bad it is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the things that I would do if I was able to design my own thing, because we live in a 40-foot trailer that was pre-designed, is after I've used the shower water, because it's still going to be between 25 and 30 Celsius, even after you've run it over and over, is to have some kind of heat exchanger coil, like PEX coils, before it goes out, and then let it go out. You don't have to go down to the frame, then let it go out to the garden up above. But if you were able to keep some of that thermal energy in and let it radiate through the house.
Yeah, because I probably will do in-floor radiant heating, but again, I was thinking of doing electric versus hydronic. Just keeps things a bit simpler. Also, I'm not a plumber, so it's a lot less plug and play than the electrical if you're doing the water, and I wouldn't want to risk dumping water all over the house. But so yeah, the in-floor radiant is something that I've considered, but I hadn't considered integrating it with the shower, which is certainly a possibility, or at least having it be integrated somehow in the bathroom itself.
Yeah, just to heat the bathroom up.
Yeah.
Yeah, would make a lot of sense. All right, let me